Heavy is the head that has to manage all of this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel.
We're now incentivized to buy what we already buy.
Fumbling through college had me building.
I also got some done on the other side.
And that was right around, I would say, May, maybe, right before renewing the lease for this property.
Welcome to the channel, Martha.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, I was going to say, I am getting up there and age, I'll tell you what.
Bills paid by other people, life was never this good. I had to step back, knowing that it's...
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about how to make money starting from zero. I'm going to give you a lot of situations that I personally have done in order to make money starting from nothing, absolutely nothing at all. And then I'm also going to give you situations in which you might need certain things in order to make this happen, even if you have $0 in your pocket. All right. So let's start with a very well-known situation. Now, when I was in New York City, it's a very, very busy city, as you all may know. So if you're in New York, California, Boston, Washington, D.C., Chicago, and I'm sure there's a lot of other vibrant cities that I don't know off the top of my head. But if you're in one of these cities, there's a huge possibility for you to just simply make money without the need for a car and without the need of transportation. So I've talked about this maybe once, but when I did not have a job, I would go to Manhattan, which is one of the busiest cities in New York City, and I would just walk to destinations and basically Uber people their food, but I would be walking to their destinations. I was probably 18, 19, and so what I also did was I made it more fun for myself. I was using Postmates, I was using Uber, and I decided to get roller skates. So with the roller skates, I would skate to each location. It made it a little bit more efficient, a little bit more better. Now, one of you may be asking, well, roller skates cost money. But again, I started off walking, made the money through Uber, and then invested in some roller skates. The roller skates allowed me to do maybe 1 or 2 or 3 more orders a day. And at the time, I'm not sure if they still do this, but Postmates had hot locations where they would offer me bonuses just randomly. They offered me a Postmates bag randomly at a warehouse location that they just had magically there. It was almost like solving a puzzle. It was very kind of cool, almost like a game where I would just go to different locations and then boom, an alert would pop up on my phone. Oh, you are qualified to get this Postmates bag. You're qualified for an extra $5 tip. And then a lot of these people are rich in Manhattan, but very cheap, and they like to argue a lot. So one example of that is when I would go into these big buildings, they would just ask me to drop the food off with the security guard. Made my job so much easier. But one time I said, ooh, I have to roller skate almost an hour away. This person's food would be absolutely cold. So what I did is I actually took the train with their food to their home. It took me 25 minutes to get there. They said that it took me so long to get there and I didn't get a tip for that. Not only did I have to take the train, which cut into my profits, but I only did it to ensure that this person got their food in a timely manner and that it didn't take an hour to do it. And I think that was my last job of the day because it was just so far that it stopped me from taking other jobs. So there is some pros and cons to the Ubering and the Lyft of the worlds, but that's something that you can do without a car if you live in a major city. Now, for all of you who are all ready to attack me and say, hey, I don't live in a major city, I live in Wisconsin, and I'm not sure how big Wisconsin is, so please don't quote me on this. But you might say, I need a vehicle in order to do that. Well, great. Now, personally, I did not use other people's vehicles in order to Uber, do Lyft, and things of that nature. But I do know people who have. I do know people who have used other people's vehicles in order to do that. And so this would only require you to have basically a driver's license and great communication skills and trust. because now you're asking your mom, your brother, your cousin, your friend to use their vehicle in order to do this service. And they have to trust that you will be a good steward of their property, knowing that you do not have the money to cover any financial damages, right? So they're taking an additional risk on you because you're now using someone else's property, knowing that you cannot afford to pay them back for any damages that may have or may happen. Now let's move on from that itself. Airbnb arbitrage. I do have friends who do this. I personally do not do this. Now, personal example, and I say personal because this is my cousin. My cousin was living in New York, and when he decided that he was going to move in with his mom after purchasing a home, they decided that because their lease wasn't up, they were going to put it on Airbnb. With their lease still in place, they were able to make so much money on Airbnb. They were making at least an additional $3,000 a month. And mind you, their apartment costs about $2,000. So they were making about $5,000 a month. Apparently, a lot of people like New York. And it was in Brooklyn, so it was right next to the Brooklyn Nets. Well, not right next to, but if you take a train, you can get to the Barclays Centers. You can do a lot of stuff. And so I was actually shocked that they were making $5,000 a month. And that was like, whew. I mean, I would continue to renew that lease as many times as possible if I was making that type of money. Now, obviously, New York cracked down on Airbnb as a whole, which doesn't necessarily make it liable in New York. But if you don't live in New York, I would tell you to look at your, your laws, see if Airbnb is liable in the city and state that you're in. And you can test it out. You can test it out with a cheap apartment. You can test it out with a more expensive apartment. You can test it out when you're not in your home. Or maybe if you have an additional room, you can test that out as well. And so I have seen people use this strategy. It's well documented on YouTube as well. I have family members who have used this strategy and it has paid off for them. I've used Airbnb personally. Now, I'm not telling you what to do, but again, this is a way to start with nothing and make it happen. Now, one of you may say, but you need a deposit, you need this and that. Listen, if you can even negotiate this with the leasing agencies and things of that nature in order to start this out, offer them 20%, 30%, 40%. Not every home is managed by a property management team. Some homes are actually managed by the owners. Like, for example, my home is managed by me. My other home is also managed by me. And very, very early on, I did have people ask me about doing Airbnb in my homes, and I just didn't respond. But you might get an owner who is willing to accept that offer, doesn't want the hassle of doing it, doesn't want the hassle of cleanup. And as long as there's no problems with the neighbors and things like that, they may be interested in your inquiry. So that is another thing that you can do. Now, what else can you do to make some money starting from zero is obviously get a part-time job or get a full-time job if you don't already, or even work 2 full-time jobs. When I was in college, college was a full-time job to me, and I also had a full-time job as a security officer. Now, that isn't to say that you can't have 2 full-time jobs that are salary and making a ton of money, but I found it easier to find 2 full-time jobs that are essentially entry level. For example, if you were a delivery driver for a pizza company, and then you were also a security guard, you can probably find 80 hours a week to do both of those jobs where they're not overlapping with each other. But if you are a data scientist and you are also a general manager of a restaurant, I highly doubt that you'll be able to find the time to do both, especially because sometimes they'll require more than 40 hours of your time per job that you're getting into. So depending on where you are in life and what jobs you're willing to take, that can dictate whether or not you can have 2 jobs, or whether you can have 1 job and a part-time job, or whether you can simply only have 1 job and some side hustle of some sorts, right? I know people who have 4 jobs. And if you have 4 jobs, you're probably not working full-time at more than 2 of those, right? So it's important to note that you might want to find something more stable to where you're not bouncing around from here to here to here, and try to limit that to 2 jobs maximum. Now, if you like this video, if you like some of the suggestions that I gave you, please leave a like. Say something in the comment section down below. It'll truly help the channel grow. 89% of people are not subscribed to the channel, which is better than 90% because it was 90% at one point. So thank you guys for starting to subscribe. Please continue to do so, as it will help the channel grow, and I will continue to post good content for you. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.